1. So this story takes a little bit of background to make sense. I work as a paramedic in a tiered EMS system, where ALS, Advanced Life Support Paramedics, is separate from BLS, Basic Life Support EMTs. Ambulances and response is in non-transport chase vehicles. We have multiple platoons, each with an alphabetical designation A, B, C, etc. During a shift, each medic unit is supposed to use their call signs followed by their platoon identifier, as in Medic 1A, Medic 1B, etc. This is really only important around shift change when you might have 2 medic units of any given number in service at the same time due to late calls, etc. When we transport a non-critical patient, usually only one paramedic treats the patient, and the other one goes to the hospital in the medic truck but becomes available as a single medic responder, identified via their assigned number, such as Paramedic 123, which is unique and is never used by anyone else, even on another shift. This incident happened to me several years ago, when I was still fairly new and had only been at the agency for a few years. I was working a ton of overtime at the time, averaging over 80 hours per week, and I was also a relief person on my platoon, which meant that I was a fill-in for call-outs for people on vacation, so I was constantly working different units. This meant that I was also constantly forgetting which unit or shift I was on, and would often get it wrong, i.e. working Medic 1A but say Medic 1D on the radio. And often, I would have to pause to make sure I got the unit number right as well. So my transmission might go something like Medic, then pause while my brain catches up. 1, pause again, A, arrival. Hence, I would often just use a numeric identifier and leave off the alphabetic one, since I tripped up over it or got it wrong a lot of the time. This caused some frustration for a new supervisor who was assigned to our shift, and for some reason seemed to really not like me. The supervision was making a big push to have people use the alphabetic identifier on their transmissions, and he took it next level. One day we're out running our butts off and I get a message from him in all capital letters. "You must use your platoon identifier on all radio transmissions." So, on our next call, my partner takes a patient to the hospital, and I went, "Paramedic 123B available." Once I arrived at the ER, the other crews there all had a good laugh and told me I had to call the supervisor's phone. He yelled at me to meet him at the fueling station. So, after transferring patient care and restocking, we headed over there. We pull up to the fuel pumps, and my partner starts fueling the truck while I start walking across the parking lot to his truck. He jumps out and hurls a wad of trash at me before going on a rant about me being a smart-ass on the radio, etc., etc. He's carrying on like the third monkey on the gangplank to Noah's Ark, and going on about how only using the alphabetic identifier when I'm transmitting my full unit number, not my single responder number, and things like, "Don't make a pause between your unit number and your letter because it sounds like you're being disrespectful, etc., etc." I wait until I can get a word in edgewise and then explain the situation to my OT and changing units every day. His response was just, "Well, get it right the first time." So I asked if I should correct it if I make a mistake, and he responded with the same statement. He then jumped in his truck and left. I turned around and headed back to our truck after I picked up his trash and discarded it properly, to find my partner doubled over laughing. He says, "You're the only person I know who can ruin a supervisor's whole day with one letter of the alphabet, and do it with class." We've had a lot of laughs about it since then. And for fairness' sake, the supervisor did actually get a lot better and became a pretty decent guy. We got along well by the time he was transferred to another platoon a few years later. 2. I was in the market for some tank tops and figured I would get some gaming-themed ones. Doing a quick Google search, I found a website selling compression tank tops, which is exactly what I was looking for. They happened to be running a buy 2 get 1 free sale for Memorial Day weekend. Bonus! Found the shirts I wanted to rock, added them to my cart. Sure enough, at the cart, it discounted the cheaper of the 3 tank tops. No big deal, as that's standard retail operations for a free item promotion. Now, I had never heard of this store before, so at checkout, I opted for the PayPal option just to be safe. when dealing with a seller I've never heard of, or I can't physically touch the merchandise, I always opt for PayPal. If there's no PayPal option, I nope right out. Fast forward 2 weeks, I get one shirt in the mail. Not only is it the wrong size, it's also the wrong design I selected at checkout. That sucks, but mistakes happen. Maybe I got someone else's order. Again, mistakes happen, so I decided to check in my order on the website via PayPal. All the designs I had selected were on the invoice, so I figured it was a mistake. But upon further inspection on the PayPal invoice, I noticed that they charged me for all 3 shirts, even though it was buy 2, get 1 free. Alright, maybe this was another mistake. They have a customer service phone number I can ring to talk to someone, New York number, so I don't have to worry about time zones or anything like that. So I call their customer service number, it rings and rings and rings, then goes to voicemail. Still no problem. Maybe they went to lunch or had to use the restroom. Left my name, number, order ID, and asked for a callback. No callback that day. Okay. Still not a big issue, I'll call tomorrow after work. I call again around 2:30 p.m.-ish. So I have a low chance of hitting them on a lunch break. Again, rings multiple times, then goes to voicemail. Now I'm starting to get a little annoyed. Again, leave name, number, order ID, couple days go by, still no callback. Alright, guess it's time to play hardball. So I contacted them through PayPal by opening an item not received case, so I can keep an official track record. I have receipts now, and yet still no response from them. You would think that contacting them through PayPal would light a fire under their asses. Nope, not a chance. Another few days go by, so I try to contact them yet again. Still nothing. Mind you, I have only received 1 shirt out of the 3 that I paid for. Now I am pissed. It's been 7 days since I opened the case and a full month since I placed the order. So I took it to the next step. I escalated the case to PayPal disputes and let it go. After 6 more days, the store finally replied with a tracking number. Okay, cool. The fire I lit under their asses is starting to burn, so now they will get me what they owe. I give it another 4 days for the tracking number to update with the shipping service and I can track it. But what's this? They used a fake tracking number as proof of shipment. Oh, hell no. This does not fly with me. I took it upon myself to call PayPal customer service directly and explain the situation. After talking with the guy who was completely wonderful, he puts me on hold for about 5 minutes or so. He comes back on the line. After reviewing everything, my evidence, the complaints, the fake tracking number, the call logs, they closed it in my favor as it's just been a few days over a month, which is beyond a reasonable amount of time to get the items shipped out to someone. While I was on the phone with the customer service rep, he let it slip that this particular store has had numerous item not received complaints on file. Apparently my case was the final catalyst because as of last night, and due to the numerous complaints, PayPal is going to launch an investigation into the store and probably revoke their seller status, as well as sending over documentation to the host of the website about the scam being run. All of this over $45 worth of merchandise. Needless to say, I just won my first personal shopping PayPal dispute, and I couldn't be happier. 3. Decades ago, in the 1990s, I worked as an information researcher for a high commissioner in an international organization. I had a junior position and was 26. During the first years, people at the head office started to reach out to me as well for little requests, as I pride myself to be thorough and fast. Someone in the head office took a liking to me, so when a temporary opening at head office required a process analyst, which I studied as well, I was formally requested for secondment. The HC complied, and off I went to a different country. The relationship between head office and the field offices was strained for various reasons, and the red tape was worse than the Byzantine Empire. Now, the project wasn't that interesting. Record internal processes in HR and point out flaws, and less of a challenge than initially presented. But it gave me a wonderful insight into the workings of the head office. who decided what and where to go when you wanted an answer for a decision. Before long, the office and the HC started to direct requests to me if they needed anything from head office without invoking the dreaded red tape. As a junior, this was a definite boost for my self-confidence. A couple of weeks into my job, another international office called me. They had received guidance from the HC that if they wanted anything done at head office, they should call me. So in the time that followed, I would regularly receive calls asking me to arrange all sorts of things, which I did. In the meantime, I am still working on my project. Remember, I am still a junior. And then, it all went pear-shaped. On a Monday morning, I received a call from the policy director of the HC. There will be a ministerial conference in the town of the head office, but there seems to be some doubt over the hotel arrangements. If they fax me the details, would I be so kind as to go to this hotel and talk it through with the general manager? Sure. So I take the afternoon off and arrange everything. The next morning, I am called into the office of my department director, who is furious, and my manager is standing next to him with her arms crossed. I am not allowed to sit down, and am asked where I was yesterday afternoon. Seeing no problems, I tell them about the call in the hotel. The director then tells me in no uncertain terms that I am not allowed to do work for other offices whilst on the payroll for this office. If I am to lift one finger, there would be grave consequences. Furthermore, pay will be deducted for my absence yesterday. I managed to get in that I took an afternoon off, and did it in my own time, but they deem it unpaid leave anyway. In comes malicious compliance. Dejected, I sit at my desk, unable to fathom what I have done wrong. Later that day, I get 2 calls. One from HC, and one from the other office, and I inform them that by instruction of the director, I have been forbidden to do any tasks not related to my current position. Please go through regular channels. You can imagine how both reacted. The red tape in this organization is legendary. I get more calls from even higher-ups in both offices pleading me to bend the rules just a teeny bit. I mean, it is more a guideline, wouldn't you say? I hold my ground and suggest they need to clear it with my manager or the director, but that my hands are tied. The next day, the process repeats. The political director calls concerning the conference. Can I contact translators and go through the flight plan of the HC and staff with the limo company? No. What? And I repeat my mantra. He gets furious and starts shouting, not at me, but at the general incompetence of head office, with some choice words about certain directors there. The next morning, my manager's secretary walks into my office. She is nervous. Please report to the Secretary General's office immediately. The tone lets me know something horrible is afoot, so I actually run there. The SG secretary greets me with a malicious grin. Oh, you've created quite a mess, haven't you? I still don't know what's going on, but could see my immediate termination in a not-so-distant future. As I walk in, there is the Secretary General, my director, and my manager. The SG is fuming. He explains to me that a formal complaint is being prepared by the HC and the head of the other office over the lack of service from the head office, whereby the HC has even hinted that the department was trying to derail the ministerial conference. This is all due to the fact that it had come to their attention that people have been directly instructed not to assist the 2 offices. Is this true? Yes, I have been told that I am not allowed to perform any duties for any other office while on the payroll of this office. With me present, the SG looks at both and asks, "Which idiot decided this?" The director states that he decided this based on the information from my manager. The SG tells him, well, this morning I've been shouted at by the HC and the head of office from the other office, and I don't like being shouted at. He looks at me and tells me, whenever you receive a request from these offices, I want you to execute these with priority and diligently. This overrides your assignment. If there is any discussion, refer to my office. However, you will report to me weekly on the nature of these requests. My office will confirm this in writing. I nod, say thank you, and get out of there. Inside, shouting ensues. The secretary winks at me with a broad smile. A right mess, isn't it? My head is spinning. Part of my work now falls under the direct supervision of the Secretary General. From that time on, to the end of my secondment, I basically could do whatever I wanted. I attended the conference at the personal request of HC and did everything that was asked of me. I continued to receive calls from various offices and ran errands for the SG office. I even went to other countries to have meetings there at the request of offices. I finished the project ahead of time and became a go-to person for a lot of people, even when I returned to my own office. After I got back to my office, I received an immediate pay rise, new tasks, and a number of wonderful letters of recommendation. The HC and political director had personally asked for them, which helped tremendously when I changed positions years later. Although the HC has long since passed, I still remember him fondly as a man who had your back, no matter how junior or lowly your position. 4. About 15 years ago, I ran a small, successful beauty salon as a young 20-something woman. We rented a large space in a building from a very elderly gentleman who let us do anything we wanted to the place, as long as we paid our rent on time. We put lots of money into improvements inside, built new rooms and redecorated, and he was thrilled with the new look. He eventually sold the building to a cocky, late-30s smarmy businessman, as he called himself, who immediately raised the rent. No problem. Business is business, but right from the start he had an attitude with an all-female run business, and would constantly belittle us and make comments about how we didn't know business like he did. His favorite insult was to call us bimbos. We didn't really give two shits what he had to say, in all honesty. We made our money off being attractive bimbos, as he liked to say, and he was a gross old dude with a monobrow, so we didn't pay him any mind. A few months after the purchase, a massive construction project took place right near our building, restricting access and limiting the number of clients we could take due to no parking. The construction also pretty much eliminated any walk-in clients, as who could want to go to a salon when there's jackhammering going on right across the road? The new owner gave us 14 days' notice on raising the rent yet again. We knew this wasn't legal, so we pushed back and got a tirade of abuse that he was a businessman and we were just bimbos who didn't know the law. At this time, our lease was coming up for renewal in less than 3 months. We asked for a 1-year renewal of our lease, which he refused. I guess he thought he could bluff us. He said we could sign for 3 years at a much higher rent or fuck off. So we chose the latter. With plenty of notice, we advised in writing that we didn't intend to renew our lease, and he hurled abuse at us yet again, saying he would have it rented in no time and we would regret it. We moved 5 minutes' drive away to a better location for close to half the rent, and the place is actually still thriving today, although I have since sold my share and moved on to other things. During the last month of our lease, the landlord would bring prospective tenants into the property day and night. He would even open the doors while people were in treatments to let the prospective tenants look around. Fortunately, due to the construction next door, we didn't have too many clients, but the noise drove every possible tenant away without us even having to say a word. The landlord had advertised the property, including many of the additions we had made. However, we had it in writing from the original landlord that they were to be removed and the shop returned to its original state, 4 bare walls, at the end of our lease. So that's what we did. We began to strip the place of the rooms we had built and move our stuff to our new salon. We took hundreds of photos for evidence, and began the setup of our business out of our new location. Well, to say the landlord was furious would be an understatement. He got a lawyer to write us a letter demanding compensation for the destruction of his property. We just referenced our contract, which specified a building of X size with 4 walls. We were still bound by our original lease that we had signed with our lovely old landlord. No new lease had been entered into with Mr. Businessman. Offered for him to pay us for just half the costs of materials, no labor or contractor costs we had incurred, and we would leave the additions standing. He laughed in my face and told me he wouldn't pay $1, and that he would sue me for every dollar I made so hard that my grandchildren would still be paying my debt. He was a charming bloke. We showed him our agreement with the original landlord that all changes needed to be removed and that this agreement would stand unless another was made and agreed to by tenant and landlord at a later date. We stripped that place bare. Didn't even leave a single shelf on the walls. Cleaned it till it sparkled. He then got his lawyer to write another letter saying we didn't have enough notice and were required to pay another 3 years of rent. I said, show us the contract where we agreed to this. We were sent a copy of our email requesting a 1-year contract and an invoice for the rent for that period. Well, I said he never agreed to that, and we never signed a contract for that either. It went back and forth, getting nastier and more malicious. He was obsessed. I decided it was time to get some revenge and hit him where it hurts. His pocket. Every communication I got from his solicitor, I made sure he sent to me registered post. I would often respond to only part of a letter, requiring the solicitor to send another letter to follow up. I was a bimbo after all, right? I couldn't be expected to answer more than one question at a time. I would respond to each letter by email, but require a registered letter acknowledging receipt of my email. Solicitor was more than happy to oblige. More billable charges to his client. The more petty the landlord got, the more petty I became in response. Don't even try to out-bimbo a bimbo, mate. The landlord had at this time also refused to refund our bond, claiming he hadn't had time to do a final inspection. So we lodged a claim with the appropriate ombudsman, and of course, the landlord came back with a laundry list of fake damage claims. Luckily, we had our photos to prove he was full of shite, and he had to return our bond in full. By this stage, we had been out of the premises for 7 months, and we were doing great at our new location. In that whole time, he couldn't get anyone to rent the place due to the construction, even after reducing the rent 3 times. He has spent so much money on solicitor fees and failing to collect rent that he had to sell the building, and his wife filed for divorce. We found this out when the daughter of the lovely original owner called us to tell us the sad news that he had passed away. He had always loved us girls, and we would always spoil him if he came to visit and fuss over him with coffee and biscuits, and give him his favorite treatment of a hand massage. The daughter was friends with Mr. Businessman's wife and gave us all the goss. It took the new nasty owner another 18 months to sell the building, and all the while it sat empty, and he didn't collect a penny in rent. Guess he shouldn't have played chicken with the bimbos after all. We were actually pretty happy there, and probably would have stayed if he hadn't decided to prove that we were so inferior. If you ever read this, suck it, Costa. Love the bimbos. 5. I'm a professional baker, and have worked for various companies developing recipes and the like. I found a job at a local grocery store, working super early mornings on their pastries for the day. There were usually a few other people there, one of whom was a mixer. Mixers typically follow a spec sheet with the weights of all the ingredients they need to batch mix. It's kind of mindless work and doesn't require much thought. He was a young guy, fresh out of his teens. We became fast co-worker friends, and enjoyed chatting it up about baking, and I'd help him put our supply order away. Good times. One day, a woman with a thick Russian accent came in and handed us business cards. She told us whatever we're getting paid, her company would double it if we came to work for them. I scheduled an interview, thinking this would be a great opportunity for me. It was a new grocery store concept, like a glitzy, glammy European-style Costco, whatever that means. When I went in for the interview, the place was literally still under construction. I met their lead baker and we hit it off right away. He warned me that the big boss had interesting tastes and we'd need to work with that. No biggie, more money, let's go. They hired us both. Over the next several months, it was a really interesting and fun experience. The big boss, thick, burly Russian man to the point of perpetually angry, wanted this place to be like Costco, mass production of quality pastries. They were bringing in crazy amounts of new equipment, including folders, shapers, and injectors that were easily worth millions. We didn't have much equipment to start, and we were doing a lot of mixing in trash cans. Remember my mixer buddy? Well, he was working on the bread dough, using spec sheets provided by our lead baker. Over time, they were bringing in more staff, and it was a lot of fun developing new recipes, experimenting with ratios, and figuring out how to get over constraints for the type of products the boss wanted. Did I mention he was an asshole? Yeah. When he was reviewing some cheesecake I had made, he said, "Good job, sweetie." I came back with "Miss, ma'am," or "My name is fine." He scowled at me, and from that point on he treated me like garbage. We brought other women on staff. I watched him hit on them. Some of the others were cool with being sexually harassed, I guess. This place was paying top dollar and had to get in good with the big boss, right? So the stage is set here. Boss quickly turned his business into a game of Survivor. He'd fire people on the spot for whatever reason. One day, one of the people he sacked was our lead baker. It came as a surprise since he was developing all the recipes we'd be using. I inherited a lot of his notes, and his development work was divided between me and the mixer. So this whole time, Mixer was kissing Big Boss's ass pretty hard. He was seeing an open position with the lead baker gone, and quickly became invested in the idea of him running the bakery show and making some serious money. At the same time, my relationship with Big Boss was quickly declining. For an example, I had him sample some cinnamon rolls I had made, and he came back with, "I hate these, they're terrible." What do you not like? We can change anything about them. The dough, the filling, the icing. I don't know, I just don't like them. On a hunch, I gave some cinnamon rolls from the same batch to another lady there he had eyes for, and asked her if she'd present them to him as her own. She offered him the same product I had given him minutes before, and he loved it. Anyway, I noticed that my notes were out of place one day, and a coworker informed me my mixer buddy was stealing my work and presenting it as his own. He was also approaching me and asking a lot of baking questions, which was fine, but I knew that his knowledge of industrial ratio baking was mediocre at best. He was a mixer. Following a recipe is all he knew how to do. Knowing this, I made a decoy copy of my notes, but this time I put really awful recipes with huge amounts of salt or yeast. Anyone who knew how to build a recipe could probably look at it and go, "Whoa, that's a lot." Not Mixer Buddy. My original plan was to leave this in an obvious spot as bait and let him steal the awful recipes, but Big Boss had other plans. We sat down for a pre-lunch meeting, and he informed me I wasn't going to be working in the bakery anymore and being relegated to store setup. Mixer was going to be taking over as lead baker. Guess all that ass-kissing really paid off, and I was to give him all my notes so far. No problem, boss. A day later was when the fun really began. Mixer mixed up a huge batch of super-ass salty cake batter, and I heard Big Boss screaming at him about way too much salt. That's not even where the fun begins. As we were setting up industrial quantity baking equipment, we had to test the larger quantity mixing machines, and did a test run for some bread dough, with my decoy recipe that had triple the yeast and sugar. As it didn't come out right, Mixer had to throw it away. His choice? The dumpster out back in the dead heat of summer. Hundreds of pounds of dough. The fun thing about massive amounts of bread dough is that it doesn't magically stop rising if you throw it away, especially in a hot dumpster. A few hours later, I spied out back to see Mixer Buddy shoveling this massive blob of dough into trash bags that had exploded from the dumpster like an uncovered blender, spewing out a yeast-laden smoothie. Sweet revenge. Now, this store was really strange. They had been ordering doubles of all the crazy industrial baking equipment and storing them in back. We had nowhere to put any of this. I also looked up the company where we were subcontracted under, and it was to a dead address in Russia. Big Boss also had armed security guards everywhere. This was a grocery store, mind you. I had a feeling that this company was more of a front for laundering a bunch of money. I eventually was fired by Big Boss, which was great because I had been job hunting, full well knowing this business was a sinking ship. I had a new job lined up already. They had their grand opening, did business for 3 months, then closed. R.I.P. Mixer. Hey everybody, Hellfreezer here, and thank you very much for listening to Revenge is Ice Cream. episode 89. And thank you very much to everybody who allowed me to use their stories in this video. If you enjoyed the video, then please do like, subscribe, and comment, and share the video with all your friends and family, and your local baker, of course. Alright, we have a little birthday shout out to do, and I am a day late in doing it, bad Hellfreezer. I actually thought it was the second, I really did. But this birthday shout out goes to Vanapira Rain. I don't know how old they are, but with a name like that, I assume centuries. Hope you had a very nice birthday, Vanapira. In fact, quite frankly, you should be celebrating it all week, because why the hell not, eh? And if I may be so bold, I will sing happy birthday to you, if that's alright. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Vanapira Rain. Happy birthday to you. Alright, lovely. And I think on that note, I'm going to wrap it up there. So until next time, thank you very much for listening, and take very good care of yourselves.